And welcome to another edition of Patriots No Huddle. Steve Ballesteri, Mike Debate, Derek Havens here as your host, as always, brought to you by PatsFans.com. Please do like, share, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or subscribe to our Pats Fans YouTube channel. If you would like to help us out, it keeps us high in those podcast rankings so other Patriots fans can find you. Guys, I would love to cuss, but I would hate for my friend Miguel Benzon to be mad at me. So, Steve, what the F is up, man? How are you doing today?
It's been a sad couple of days. I mean, I'm so happy football is back. Patriots are on the field. They look pretty good so far. But I mean, we lose Ozzy, one day, and now Hulk
Hogan?
Hogan. I mean, man, it's been kind of a bummer.
It turns out that drugs and steroids aren't great for your body, depending on how you go. Mike, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I think I can echo Steve's sentiments. It's not a good week for us '80s kids. I mean, you got Malcolm Jamal Warner, passing away tragically as well.
Yeah.
Just it's
Chris
life has a way of
Froome.
reminding you of its fragility sometimes, and I think we're all feeling that this week. But Patriots fans are excited, and if you're excited as a Patriots fan for this week, you are absolutely in the majority, and you're well within your rights to do so. A lot to be excited for from what we've seen on the field so far, and we're only at day 3, my friend.
I wouldn't say I'm a huge like Ozzy Osbourne guy per se, but his impact is like undoubtedly like prevalent in a lot of different ways. And the fact that he was able to do his last show a couple weeks ago, and he passed away. We know he snorted up half of Peru, but he still he still lived his life, and he did it in a hardcore way, and he was a true hardcore musician, and he probably was even more than. Certainly more than my time, more in your guys' realm. Steve and I were talking about the other day where it was like, was that 2005, Steve? The
Mhm.
when we talked about the other day, with the Patriots.
Yep, it
Yep, I
certainly
watched
was.
after you and I talked about it on the phone. I watched on YouTube the live performance, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is electric!" It looks like an absolute thing. He knew how to throw a party, so I'll give him that. So God rest his soul, bless his family. Same with Hulk Hogan. He had some of his own moments, whether you're a wrestling fan or not. Um, Mike, I want to start out the show basically talking to you about, um, I guess, with your observations from Patriots training camp starting. We're going to have the first padded practice. Is that Monday? Correct?
I believe so, yes, according to
Yeah, the
what
first
Mike has
padded
said. Yeah.
practice is Monday. So it's the same pretty much everywhere. It's kind of a slow roll into it a little bit. And you've been there for the last couple of days. So why don't you just share your general observations, and Steve and I will just pick at it from there.
Yeah, without question. I think one of the first things the Patriots fans are picking up on this year is a change in vibe, a difference in the feel. And I think that all
It
stems
does
from
feel
Mike
like that
Vrabel.
even from afar, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all Patriots fans are experiencing that right now. And I think it all comes from Mike Vrabel. There's a sense of transparency, there's a sense of accountability. And most importantly, I think there's a sense of authority that we haven't seen here in a few years. And albeit respect to Bill Belichick, and anybody that's listened to this podcast or my previous work knows that I'm firmly in Bill's camp most of the time. I give him the benefit of the doubt 9 times out of 10. But the last couple of years here in New England, there was a clear disconnect between he and his players. Last year with Gerard Mayo, it kind of felt like the positional coaches may have had a little bit more input, a little bit more say. Gerard was a little more hands off. This year, there is no question about it. Mike Vrabel is the guy that everyone is accountable to, and it really makes for an environment that I think is more cohesive. I think it's definitely made for an environment that seems to be more aggressive on the field, and you like to see that in your head coach. Each and every player that's spoken to the media after practice has said about Mike's style, and it's good to have accountability. It's good for him to hold us accountable for our actions on the field. But they also make it very clear that he has their back no matter what. And I think the Patriots players feel like they are supported by their coach. And I think that's something that will continue to show itself now as the pads come on and the practices get more intense. It's going to be very important for Vrabel to maintain that type of aura. And I think he's already set the tone very well for it, Derek.
Steve, I'm going to go to you next here, but I'm going to ask Mike a question real quick. Also, Mike, credit to you for giving the word aura, because that's a big hit word in the younger generation vocabulary right now. But I do sense that, Bill always had like this kind of like for the podcast listeners, I'm holding my hand out like a plane. It's Bill was always like kind of steady Eddie. Like he always kind of was trying to be even keeled all the time. Gerard, I felt like, was that kind of, but he looked a little unsure. Vrabel brings a little bit of confidence. And I think to your point, Mike, like that confidence is shining through, and I think the fans are even feeling that. And then you use the word vibe, and I would say that some of the national media, some of the other beat reporters feel that same kind of vibe. Like it seems like he's bringing like a different energy to the team, and it does feel kind of infectious. Now, I don't want Patriots fans to be booking Super Bowl tickets because I don't think that we're there yet. Okay. But I do think that he's bringing a different kind of energy. Do you feel that when you're there?
Oh, absolutely, without question. And he's holding everybody accountable. Mike is holding the media accountable, just as we expect to hold him accountable for his actions. We all know he called out. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to stumble on people. It could have been anybody.
I'll do it.
Really, that I think could have been in that situation. But I don't know if you were scrolling through your phone or weren't paying attention. But I discussed this. We can go over it again if you want, but I'd rather spend my time differently. Look, Mike is going to hold people accountable in that regard, and I think you're seeing that set or that tone set right off the bat. This is how he's holding his players accountable. This is how he's going to hold himself and his fellow coaches accountable. So yeah, there's an aura of transparency, I think, is the best word, and it's a word that I used previously, but I think that's a great way to describe how things are. If something's on Mike Vrabel's mind, he is not going to hesitate to let you know about it. He's going to be straightforward. A lot of people are saying, oh yeah, he's very Bill-like. If they're referring to Belichick, yeah, maybe a little bit in terms of the no nonsense, in terms of the work ethic that he's bringing to the table, but I'll say the last couple of days of watching Mike Vrabel press conferences, there may be a little bit of Bill Parcells in Mike Vrabel.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's
nailed
something
it.
that I'm really enjoying seeing, because that jousting that he did back and forth with that unnamed reporter seemed very BP to me. That had a real tuna feel to it. So in that regard, yeah, get your popcorn ready, because you're going to see moments like that throughout the season. My good friend and former colleague, Tyler Rowland, who covers the Tennessee Titans for a number of years, covered Mike Vrabel as a head coach, and he says, be prepared for that. That's just the beginning. You're going to get that a lot. He's going to hold people accountable, especially when he might be in an extra cantankerous mood. So, yeah, a lot to be weary of if you're someone that's not paying attention or that's not used to be held accountable. But I think everybody in that locker room right now understands what Mike Vrabel is all about, and I think they're going to respond in kind. And I think the players he brought in are only going to help to cultivate that culture.
And that's what very well said. He is a no BS kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not afraid to call people out. And I would say his name, but I won't. But it's like, if you're not paying attention, he's like, I'm being here because I'm obligated to be here. So if you're not going to go ahead and pay attention, then I'm going to call you out for it, because I already have to be here and I have enough things to worry about. So it's like, why am I going to go ahead and then like listen to you ask a question that I already spent 5 minutes talking about? You know what I mean? And I think there is a little Bill Parcells in there. I think he does bring a little of a Bill Belichick style to him, because to me, he is not part of the Bill Belichick coaching tree.
Mm.
His personality is very similar to his personality when he was a player, which was always to be kind of a ball buster per se. But there are things that I can see through him already that he brought from Bill. But
Mm,
he also had time at Ohio State, and with his time with the Browns and his time with Ohio State and all those things. And it's like he will throw it back in your face, no problem. If you're not going to bring your A game, get ready for it. Steve, what do you got on this?
Yeah, well, yesterday he did it again because somebody asked him a question right off the bat, and he said, "Well, that's what training camp's about." And then he asked the media questions. What did I say yesterday about training camp? What are the three things we're trying to build? And the guys, they kind of hesitated for a minute, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are in rare form this morning." That right there reminded me of Parcells.
Mm, yeah, the Parcells reference, Mike, is friggin' spot on. Like
Spot on. That's
it's so
exactly it.
it is so like that. And
Because
but
Bill would give you the stare. If you
oh yeah,
said something or asked him a question, that he would just give you the stare, and then you'd be what we used to recall as that guy. You don't want to be that guy because Bill would just give you that blank stare for
we're on
about
to
5 seconds,
Cincinnati. We're
and
on to
then you
Cincinnati.
you just go like this, shrink down to nothing. But
100%. Absolutely 100%. Um, Mike, give me any kind of from a player standpoint or even a positional group. And this it might be hard for people who've never been to training camp before, but like from a positional standpoint, were people on like were like groups in like the similar spots? Was it significantly different? I'm kind of curious about like that.
yeah, things looked very similar. I know we talked last week about the offensive line kind of being up off toward the back. That's exactly where they're aligning again this year. And look, I think that there is some continuity. There is some value, I should say, in continuity, in maintaining some of what we've seen in the past, especially from especially from a fan's perspective. I think that's important. So Mike is trying to maintain that level, but again, there is a number of different things that we're seeing. We're seeing Mike Vrabel and this coaching staff. I don't want to just eliminate the coaching staff from their input into this as well. Attack things fairly early. I mean, in the second day that the New England Patriots put on their uniforms to go practice, albeit no pads yet. They're going right at, I think, something that was a problem for them this year, and that was the short passing game. I
Mm.
enjoyed seeing those drills and a line on day two, and watch Drake May try to work through on first downs and use the emphasis on screens, on swing patterns, in order to not just be able to neutralize the blitz, but also to avoid penalties, also to avoid early interceptions. These are the types of things that you're going to see Mike Vrabel and this coaching staff work on. You're going to hit the problems head on. I know they can't wait to get the pads on to try to address some of the issues we've seen on the offensive line, and there were a few this week. The tackle position looked pretty porous. Now, is that a product of not being able to hit back without much, muscle behind the pads, or is this a lingering problem? These are questions that are going to be, addressed next week. But in terms of the alignment, and in terms of what we're seeing, there's a familiar feel to it. But again, there's also a brand new, fresh take on a lot of what's going on, and it has a lot to do with the coaching staff that's in place.
I would say that's one of my biggest fears about Vrabel, um, is that he kind of came from a ground and pound system. Like he didn't come from it. He in Tennessee, that was like he had Derrick Henry. So
Mhm.
you have like this person who shouldn't be being able to run the position the way he's able to run it, but he's able to because he's just a freak of nature in the most respectful way possible. And I'm worried that he's going to be able to do that. But it's also interesting because like you some of the comments that you say, it's like okay, well, like Josh McDaniels used to do that, and it was like when the Patriots and Russ Goldman will be smiling somewhere if he listens to the show. Um, uh, hey Russ, what's up? I would say death by 1,000 paper cuts. Like
Mm.
when the Patriots were really good, they would run the short game really well. You didn't have to throw a 35-yard pass and or you could just do 7, 8, 11, 13, like just random in cuts from slot receivers or whatever, which is why I feel like Pop Douglas is going to have a huge year. But you have to go ahead and see that they're going to work the offense around um the players they have, I guess. And Steve, when we're talking about the offense, and we'll get to the defense too, because trust me, we have plenty to talk about there as well. When you talk about the offense, there are players that could really be really interesting with Drake May and how they can be productive and move into his year too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, from what we've seen, right? Stephon Diggs looks really good,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and him and Drake May are building a connection. I also see that happening to not quite at the same extent, but really well with Pop Douglas. And I think a guy like Douglas, a guy
In
like
McDaniel's system,
Efton Chisholm, and you take those guys, and like Mike was saying, they were emphasizing the short passing game. It cuts down on turnovers, and, but it also, you want to be able to get positive yardage on first down. That's where they got into so much trouble last year. And if you have that short, quick passing game, and Brady, uh, while he was here under Josh McDaniels, the Patriots excelled at that.
but
And
Steve, they always wanted to make sure they were putting themselves in a position on first and second down, however they did it. They always wanted to make sure they were not in a they always want to be within third and 5 or third and 4 if they couldn't get there on the first and second down, right? So they're like slow cutting, slow cutting, slow cutting.
right, well, and that was the difference. I mean, you look at last year, they were consistently 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, where their opponents 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. It's so much easier to convert when you're in those short
Absolutely.
situations, because it gives you the option of going both ways with the football. And I think that's Josh McDaniels. I mean,
And
positive
that's
on
why
first down.
that's why Patriots fans should be excited, because then you're putting yourselves in those positions where I don't think it was not. This is nothing against Alex Van Pelt. Honestly, he was kind of collateral damage, of the hiring process of last year, and that's a whole different conversation. But McDaniels has always done that, and he's been good at that. And not that Drake May is Tom Brady. That would be a ridiculous pedestal to put him on,
Right.
or trajectory to aim him for. But Mike, if we're talking about Patriots offense and how they're going to go ahead and dictate things forward, it makes sense to go ahead and have McDaniels protect Drake May from having those turnovers, and also utilizing some of those things like swing passes or screens or quick slants, using maybe multiple running backs, because they have Antonio Gibson, they have Travion Henderson, they have Ramondre Stevenson, and they have Pop Douglas. So yeah, they do have the option of Stephon Diggs, but they don't have to utilize Stephon Diggs down the field or Mac Hollins down the field.
Right.
They don't have to use Kendrick Bourne for a 27-yard pass. It's also okay if they just get 7 yards, 8 yards, and they just chip away, chip away, chip away, especially with the defense that we're all expecting them to have.
Absolutely. And I think it also speaks volumes about where they may believe this offensive line is at right now, and
Mm.
where they're going to be able to step up and protect, or lack thereof. Again, like I said, this has been a rough week for the tackles. So it's going to be very important for Patriots fans to keep an eye on the first few padded practices. Let maybe one or two get under the Patriots belt before you start to judge this team. But as we progress closer to preseason game one, and we're a lot closer than a lot of people think here, folks, when it comes up,
Mhm.
in early August, I think what we're looking at now is, can the Patriots neutralize maybe some of the problems that they're likely to have on that offensive line as they try to come together and gel early on? Can the short game overcome some of those? Hitting it early in training camp and hitting it head on, I think, is a smart move by Mike Vrabel. So we'll see what happens and how they're able to adapt. But I will say this: Drake May looked very good navigating that type of an offense yesterday. Went 5 of 5 at one point. Ended up finishing 8 of 9. I'm not big into these type of stats that come out of the
Yeah, I
practices
never
or training
track
Steve
him.
and
clubs.
I were just talking about this offline
To me,
before
I
the
don't
show,
think you
by the way.
place a whole lot. Yeah, you don't place a whole lot of a whole lot of weight
Merit.
to it. But at that point, looking at how he looked and what he's been able to do, he only took one would-be sack at the hands of Harold Landry yesterday. So good things starting to come from the type of offense Drake May is learning, and he's acknowledging it and taking ownership of the fact that there's still a long way to go in him trying to master a Josh McDaniels offense. I think he understands the weight that's being put on his shoulders, but he's welcoming it, and that's something you love to see if you're a Pats fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, honestly, I see Josh McDaniels and Drake May working together very much how my wife controls me. She wants to keep me on the rails because I'm a very like all over the place person, and and so she keeps me stable and steady and going forward. And I think McDaniel's offenses and his style, I think could help Drake May because we know he's physically talented, but he does have to cut down on those turnovers. He does have to minimize those mistakes. And I mean, look at Tom Brady from Jameis Winston. With all due respect to Jameis Winston, he turned the ball over 39 times. The next year, when Tom Brady was there, was 13, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. It went from 9-8 to win the Super Bowl in 1 year from just turnovers alone. And it's just one of those things where I feel like McDaniels is going to be able to keep May in a structured environment to go ahead and make the best decision possible. And that to me is super exciting. I mean, really exciting. And Steve, we talked about this too. Like, as we talk about everything else, um, like this is one of those things, Steve, that I would say is exciting because you could as soon as the hire was made, we were saying this is the perfect guy to keep Drake May on the linear path he needs to be on in order to progress going into a second year.
Right, and like this short passing game, this is the way the NFL is going. I mean, yes, they show all the highlights of the big bomb, you know,
Mhm.
big long
And there'll be
passes because
opportunities for that.
right, but you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes. He was one of, I think, the top two or three in the shortest air yards per pass because the Chiefs went to that short passing game, right? And they were throwing all the stuff at or behind the line of scrimmage. Yeah, they took their shots, but that's the way it's going because as Kyle Shanahan likes to say, it's a long handoff in that short passing game.
That was the
And
well that was basically Brady and Wes Welker in 2007. I
yep,
mean, people talk about Randy Moss or whatever, but look at Brady and Wes Welker. Like their pass, like they basically were like, we are basically using this as like the long handoff, the like the short 5 yard crosser, the drag route. Like that is Wes Welker, like that. And so that's where I feel like I'm not saying Pop Douglas is going to put up those kind of numbers because that wouldn't be fair to him, but that's where I see where they want to go with it, where it's like maybe if we just put Drake in a position where he has to make a quick decision to a to a screen route, to a drag route, to a quick crosser, then maybe it limits his ability to turn the ball over because I wouldn't say he's Mike, I wouldn't say Drake May is reckless
Mm-hmm.
at all, but he has a live arm as
Mm-hmm.
the ball knowers would say. So him putting him into a position where there's a better chance of completion rate versus maybe him just chucking it up to Keishon Booty 60 yards down the right sideline. I know he can make that throw, but maybe it's better that they take something shorter to go ahead and keep, giving them more chances to keep the offense on the field, because I do feel like the offense has been stagnant and stalling, and I think McDaniels is going to push the ball forward. It's, with, in lack of a better term.
Could not have said it better myself. That's exactly what you're seeing, I think, on the field and its seedlings. But it's definitely what a lot of analysts and a lot of fans are talking about right now. Steve, we've discussed many times, either in private conversations or in my previous podcast, about Drake May's penchant for constantly pressing the deep ball, pressing the big play. That was the knock on him at North Carolina, is that when the opportunity presented itself, Drake May was always going to take the opportunity to put the game in his hands and win with the big play. That's something you can't live by in the
He also
NFL.
had to.
Well, he did. He had to. Absolutely no choice.
Yeah.
There wasn't much of a choice in that regard. But there are some opportunities that do present themselves for you to take short yardage gains and maybe see if you can make things happen. At the pro level, he's got guys around him now that can make those plays. It's breaking him of that habit and teaching him to trust his teammates. I think a lot of that has already been done through some of the great work that Alex Van Pelt did with him last year, especially adapting the mental level of the pro game. And that's something that I don't think Alex will ever get enough credit for, and he should, because he did a tremendous job with Drake May last year in that regard. With Josh now, you're dealing with someone that now just doesn't only have the mental ability to connect with his quarterback, with his young quarterback, and let him know what he should be doing. He's going to help him install the offense that he's going to be running for a number of years. So he's got that dual threat in Josh McDaniels now. Now you're seeing Drake May take the check down when he doesn't have to. Even in day one, Drake went to the deep ball, didn't get it completed. Next play went right to the short pass, knowing that didn't work the first time. Let's advance the ball. Let's get some yardage on this before we walk away with a 3-and-out. And then all of a sudden, we're wondering what the hell happened to a promising drive. I don't think you're going to see that as much this year. I think Drake is going to grow into his own, and I think it's going to mean good things for the Patriots offense.
That's a great point, Mike.
Sorry, Steve. I'll go real quick. That's a great point, Mike. And I want to circle back to something that you just said in a second. But Steve, please.
Yeah, that's a great point, because again, I mean, that's Josh's offense, and the beauty of Josh's offense, it puts all the responsibility on the quarterback, because you can talk in a kid's ear, and we saw it with Sean McVay and Jared Goff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once the play is snapped, his voice isn't in your ear, and you have to be able to make those decisions. Josh's offense does that, and he was able to do that. Look, you go back, we all know about Tom Brady, okay? The year Brady got hurt, he did it with Matt Castle. Matt Castle won 11 football games because he was able to turn that, into a positive, right? He did it with Cam Newton. He did it with Mac Jones. He's going to do it with Drake May. He's going to put the onus on the quarterback to make those decisions. And I think it makes him a better quarterback, because he's reading the field better when he's able to make those changes at the line. Brady used to do it all the time. And, that's something obviously Drake will have to learn. But the other thing I really like with this short passing game is I think it's going to get Travion Henderson even more involved. And, we always talked about the lack of explosive game breakers. Well, they just drafted one. And I think this
they might have drafted two. Knock on wood.
Yeah, they drafted two of them. So, but this short passing game is going to be able to get the football in these guys' hands. And I think it's a positive.
And the thing about Drake coming out of college football, so one of the things about Drake is, it was, to Mike's point, it was all on him at UNC, and he did have to try to go ahead and kind of, I guess, progress his offense forward, the best way he could. And he does have a live arm, so he could do that. But he also did something that a lot of quarterbacks in college have a really big problem with, which is throwing over the middle of the field. And he's never been afraid of that. And you have two veteran tight ends. I know Austin Hooper is a little banged up right now, but it seems like he'll be fine for the time being. But they want to get Pop Douglas involved. Okay. And Diggs, by all accounts, without knowing anything about his clear medicals, but he was cleared before training camp. So that at least speaks volumes to where he's at. He has that option too. Then he goes ahead and McDaniels is going to put him in a situation where he has several outlets, whether it's the running backs, the tight ends, slot receiver, down the field. There are opportunities for chunk plays. This is not like that's not a really up for discussion. That's what's going to happen. The question is how he's going to be able to adapt. And one of the biggest things about Josh McDaniels is that he's adapted through the years. I mean, he had to change when Tom Brady got hurt and tore his ACL, when Bernard Pollard hit him in the first 5 minutes of the first game against the Tennessee Titans, and he had to go ahead and change the offense to make sure that Matt Castle was comfortable. And he did the same thing during COVID when he had Cam Newton, and they had to do RPOs or different things to kind of utilize his athleticism or whatever, even if his arm was limited, So, Mike, to me, I think the biggest question is what kind. I think the exciting thing is that McDaniel spent a lot of time last year traveling around, visiting with other friends that were college coaches, kind of being like a sponge, picking up, maybe some different trends or schemes or whatever. I guess it's just exciting to see how it unfolds. And it might not happen week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, but maybe week 7 or 8, the three of us are sitting here talking and we're like, wow, this offense has really transformed into a whole different animal. Because I saw him do it with Randy Moss and Wes Welker. I saw him do it with Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. I saw him do it, again with Cam Newton. Like no matter how you go through it, you really can see the genius behind Josh McDaniels from an offensive coordinator perspective. Feel how you want about it as a head coach. As a coordinator, he's able to adapt. He is a chameleon. And I'm really excited about the skill set they have on the field right now and how they're going to move forward. And I have no doubt that he's going to put Drake May in the best position to be successful.
Oh, yeah. And we saw that already. We saw that yesterday with Ramondre Stevenson catching 3 passes. They're getting the backs already involved in the short passing game. Travion Henderson, I think that's an excellent point by both you and Steve, saying that he's going to be a major factor in the way this team, moves about their business on offense. Haven't seen a whole lot from the tight ends yet, but don't worry. Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, when he makes it out on the field, are going to make their presence felt. I still think C.J. Dupree's got a lot to offer on this team. I'm going to stand by that. If I'm wrong,
I love that you're dying on that hill.
I am going to die on that hill, and I'll take my lashings if he is in fact not on this list when the team is assembled for the first time. This initial opening day roster coming at the end of August, but. Bottom line, I do think that there are a lot of ways in which this offense is going to echo what Josh McDaniels loves to do. And once again, you're seeing a whole lot of Brock Lampy aligning with the top unit. So take that for what you will, folks. I think things could get interesting as the Patriots start to pick their skill position players for the season.
Well, it looks like we have a lot of live listeners, so I want to thank everyone who's listening live. And again, if you're listening later, appreciate you guys joining us on Patriots No Huddle. Mike and Steve, I'm going to ask you both this, and Mike, I'll go to you first, and then Steve second, and then we'll switch to the defense because I do feel like I want to I do have something for you, Mike, that is not probably anticipated that Steve and I talked about earlier that I'm kind of curious from the defensive side. But I do want to talk about one more thing on the offense before we switch sides of the ball, and that's Ethnicism. And I do feel like he is kind of being like a little bit of a fan favorite. He might squeak onto the roster. My question is, and this might be a terrible question to ask live because I don't have the depth chart in front of me. Okay. But I am throwing you a curveball, but like a lot of people are like, oh, Afton Chisholm, is making another play. I have a hard time seeing him make the roster because I just feel like it's so compact with some of these veterans. So, do you see a surprise veteran cut from the receiver room, or do you see a way he can kind of sneak himself onto the roster?
Well, I think right now anything is up for grabs. I think it's very interesting that for the past 3 days, Jalen Polk has not been out on the field. Now, he passed his physical, so he could not be put on pup, but we're hearing minor muscle aggravation is the reason for
Mhm.
him not being out there. Mike Vrabel was very matter of fact when he was asked about that on Friday morning, said that obviously there are ways that players can contribute if they're not out on the practice field. You put the time in, you learn the concepts, you keep up, and hopefully you don't feel like you're falling behind. I think he was very diplomatic, but there was a very pointed directive of what he was trying to say, and it felt like it was pointed at Jalen Polk. Like, if you feel you're doing your due diligence enough to be able to bring yourself up to speed, then we can completely understand it and we'll be there for you. But only the player can understand if that is indeed the case. If they want to take it slow with him and they want to make sure that he's healthy enough, that could indicate that there is a desire to see what this kid has and try to cultivate his presence on the team. Now, if he continues to miss time out there, he's going to get leapfrogged by somebody, and that somebody may be Efton Chisholm, who really is, I think, working every bit as hard as he needs to try to make this team and to try to make things happen. Look, there are all different ways that this could possibly happen for the Patriots if they decide to carry as many as 7 receivers. Efton Chisholm would probably be on this list. That would put him in as one of the 7th best receivers on this team. So that's a possibility. Do you look at someone like a Kendrick Bourne and say, okay, well, you know what?
Mhm.
Maybe he can fetch us something in the trade market, or maybe we try to cut him loose early so he can catch on somewhere else if we feel that we're going to get what we need in that that type of Swiss Army knife player, and someone like a Mac Hollins who's yet to step on the field, he's on pup. Or someone like a Keyshawn Booty to beat him out and be more of a weapon. There are ways in which he can make this team without question, but at the same time, it's going to be at someone's expense. The only question is who, and will the Patriots be a better team for it? I think the jury is still out on both of those right now.
I just find it I think the receiver room for the Patriots is absolutely fascinating.
It
Like,
is.
to be honest, the fact that Diggs is cleared already obviously is a testament to him putting in the work to go through physical therapy and to get back and heal. Okay. So he's not going to go anywhere. Okay. So then you have guys like Pop Douglas, who I don't want to speak for you or Steve. I feel like he's tailor made for Josh McDaniels' offense.
Absolutely.
Okay. So then we have Jalen Polk, who's a second year player, second round pick, really good college production player. He was the third horse in that Washington receiver room, but he was a productive player in that system. Now he's kind of bitten, like snake bitten a little bit, and I'm really worried about that because I feel like he's going down that road where we've seen young players go, and maybe he latches on somewhere else. Maybe he stays here. I don't know, but I do. Like I saw one of those aggregator sites talk about Jalen Polk like not being on, and I'm like, you don't think that he sees or hears the criticism of him not being on the field?
Absolutely.
He's at his second year of his career now. Whatever money was guaranteed in his contract, and Miguel could tell us that, you know, but whatever money was guaranteed, he's going to get. But he's still fighting to go ahead and he wants to play, and it's not like he's there. If he's cleared, he's on the field. That tells me that they're trying to be cautious because a tight muscle can turn into a pulled hamstring or a pulled quad, and then he's out for 6 weeks.
Right.
And we know how those things linger. Okay, and that's not exclusive of him. That's everybody. And then you talk about like someone like Keyshawn Booty, and it's like, yeah, maybe you think he's a nothing, But if you watched any of the games last year, I would say that him and Drake had a great chemistry on the field and made some splash plays. And maybe you want to build with that. So I just think, yeah, I think, and they signed Matt Collins, and there's been up and down reports about whether he's healthy or not. They say he's not healthy. He's out in Australia powerlifting. I don't know. I don't know what the case is with them, but I know that they signed him for a reason. But all I see is that I feel like I get to 7 names at the receiver position, and a lot of teams would keep 5, and I think they're going to keep 6. So someone's got to go. And if we're talking about Kendrick Bourne, he is someone who I feel like is a great locker room presence. Everybody loves, seems like a Vrabel kind of guy, but he also does hold trade value. Even if you get a 5th for him, which I know Patriots fans don't want to see him go, but maybe you do that because you get the trade value and you can go ahead and look into your other, options. Steve, what do you think about this? Because I feel like I literally stay up nights because I'm a psychopath, and I think about this receiver room, and I say 7 is not going to work. So who's out? And I'm not asking you to say who's out, but what is your take on everything?
Well, we were talking about Efton Chisholm, right? I think Monday we're going to start to see the answer to that, because the big thing about Chisholm, he's not a big dude, but he has that short area quickness. If he can get away from, like a jam cornerback at the line, he's going to make the roster, because that fits into that Josh McDaniels, slot guy. And just because they have Douglas doesn't mean they can't have another guy that they can plug and play in there. And so that's going to be, the big thing with him. When I look at the 2 young guys from last year, their confidence was kind of shot. All right. At the end of last year, nothing worked out the way they envisioned it. And whether it was on them, whether it was on the coaches, or both, well, they have a clean slate now with, with this new regime with Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels. But those 2 guys are going to have really good training camps, because they can't, they can't go continue the way last year went.
Mm-hmm.
And I think preseason is going to ring large for them. Bourne is like an X factor in my book, because now he's a year removed from his surgery, right? And he should be back to the
And he
way
had a
he
really
was.
good he had a really good year last time he was in Josh McDaniel's system too.
Exactly. So he's going to have to step up. I mean, it's none of these guys are, in my opinion, are guaranteed anything. I know they like Bourne because not only from what he's able to do on the field, but he's such a presence for the team off and in the locker room. So we'll have to see. But I think Chisholm has a really good shot at making this team because of the offense that McDaniels runs. And we've seen that guy before. I mean,
Do you think there's any overlap though, Steve, of him and Pop Douglas?
no, I don't think that it'd be an issue. I think they'll be able to move these guys around, because again, I mean, you put that quickness on the line, and teams are, I mean, it'll be, yeah, I mean, they're not going to threaten the field down the field, threaten the opposition down the field, but at the same time, they're going to be able to get loose and catch the ball. It's one of the things Kyle Williams is really good at, and he's not a big dude. He's not a big guy, So you can put those Smurfs out there, like Washington had the Smurfs years ago, and I know I'm dating myself on that one. But you put those 3 quick guys off the line, it's going to make the defense adapt to you. And then you still have Diggs, you still have your tight ends, and you still have Henderson and Stevenson out of the backfield, Gibson out of the backfield. So,
Steve, what did Bill Belichick always say were the two most important things about receivers?
get open, catch the football.
Yeah. so we can go ahead and that will stand still until the game is no longer existing. Those things are always going to be factors. Okay. And I didn't even talk about Kyle Williams, and obviously he's going to be on the team too. So I don't know. I look at the position. I just find it fascinating. And to your guys' point, when the Pats come on, we'll see. Especially with Vrabel, the way the Vrabel's going to run things. I'm kind of curious. Defensively, let's switch sides. Mike, I'm going to throw something at you that's totally random. I brought up to Steve on the phone before we talked on the show today. I saw this morning that Christian Wilkinson was going to be waived by the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think the Patriots could be sneaky contenders for him. And I will say a couple of different things. For one, I know they were interested before he signed with the Raiders when he left the Dolphins. He ended up going there for money. He grew up as a Patriots fan, as a native from Springfield, Massachusetts. Vrabel loves to beef up his lines. And with Christian Barmore, even though I'm optimistic about where he's at, and with Milton Williams only playing 48% of the snaps for the Eagles last year, but they obviously paid him a tremendous amount of money, I think he's a sneaky signing that they could just rotate those three guys, which would be crazy because they're going to get offset. They're going to get offset money from the Raiders having to pay him, which they're going to go through a legal process, which is a snooze fest for us to talk about on the podcast, but just to, and way over my pay grade. But I could see them being a little interested. They have the money to pay him, and it wouldn't have to be a huge deal. And then you could really rotate those guys and have kind of like that NASCAR package that the Giants had. And it's a little different because those guys were more defensive ends. These are more defensive tackles. But I don't think it's totally out of the question that they could be sneaky interested in him. What's your take on that?
I think you're right on the money. And as a matter of fact, it sounds like the New England Patriots are in agreement with you. Now, that's not an indication by any stretch of the imagination that they're going to do it, but they're going to have the conversation. Mike Vrabel said so on Friday morning. He says, I think we'll have a conversation. And again, the transparency about what he wants to do, what he's going to do, he's going to tell you. Mike has been an admirer of Christian Wilkins for quite some time. He tried to recruit him out of Columbus when he was with Ohio State.
Thank you,
Of course,
sir.
Christian ended up going to Clemson, but this right now, I think, is something that really deserves an extra sharp eye, to use a term that I love to use over and over again. Look, 5 seasons with the Miami Dolphins. You know he can play in the AFC East. You know he knows this division upwards, downwards, backwards, and forwards. 9 sacks in 2023. That was a career high. Last year, the Jones fracture, somewhat of a concern. Still continue to look at that, but 17 tackles, 2 sacks, and 6 quarterback hits in only 5 games. Yeah, if I'm the Patriots, I'm looking at this very closely. You want to see what's what. You always want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for as much success cap-wise in the future as you possibly can get. And I know Miguel will be more than happy to run those numbers for us when the time is right. But this is one I would definitely entertain if I'm the New England Patriots. Makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah, so my dog, if I use like certain words, who's sleeping at my feet right now as we're doing the show, I have a couple of words that all of a sudden bring her ears up. They perk the ears up a little bit. My wife and I call them at attention ears. And when I saw the news this morning, I had at attention ears, and I was like, I can see the path and I could see the logic, and it just kind of piqued my interest a little bit because I could see not only a rotation for a guy that missed all of last year, for a guy that is going to be taking on more responsibility, who was a big free agent signing, and they don't have to pay him top of the market value. And honestly, I was kind of looking over the next few weeks, not that I want anyone to lose their job, but that's the reality of the NFL. There's going to be cuts made and there's going to be surprises. And I thought the Patriots would already go ahead and put add someone to the front seven. I just don't know who.
Yeah.
Like nothing against like Harold Landry or Kavion Chason. Like I know what those guys kind of roles can be, but I'm still expecting something else. And maybe it's, and my thought was, well, maybe that sounds crazy because they already have this. And then I'm like, well, maybe it's not somebody on the edge. Maybe it's somebody that needs to be, in the middle. And then they can rotate or spread out and be more of like that amoeba defense that the Patriots ran several years ago. Because Vrabel certainly is all about that. So, Steve, any other additional thoughts on this situation?
Well, as you and I talked about offline, and I've mentioned this several times to people when they say, Williams only played 48% of the snaps, and I was like, yeah, because if you look at the depth Philadelphia had on that defensive line, they were loaded. I'm talking loaded. So they kept fresh legs on the field at all times, and it made the sum of the parts even better. So if you're trying to sell me on the idea, hey, they bring Christian Wilkins in, and now you have Barmore, Wilkins, and Milton Williams all on that front line, and you're keeping guys fresh, sign me up. Because you look what Philadelphia did to that Kansas City offensive line in the Super Bowl. That wasn't a fluke. They were doing that all season because that team was loaded, the interior defensive line. And granted, they have great players everywhere on that defense, but that was a major reason why he only played 48% of the snaps. Now you bring a guy in like Wilkins, and maybe he's only playing that again. But at the same time, you have three outstanding interior guys that are going to push the pocket. They're going to blow up plays in the backfield. And, it's going to allow your edge guys to play a lot freer because quarterbacks won't be able to step up in the pocket.
So well said, Steve. So well said. If this were around the horn, Steve would have like those point blips going all over the place.
Well, call me Tony Reale because I'm giving him points right now.
Absolutely. Anyone wondering whether or not this can work? And I've seen some tweets out there on Friday morning thinking like maybe this would be too much or that couldn't work. See Eagles Philadelphia 2024. I think that right there will give you all the indication that you need that this not only can work, but it can really work effectively.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'd be all in on that one. I think that would definitely work, and that would make this defense even better. Because I believe Wilkins is a fantastic player. Didn't like him when he was on Miami because of what he did to the Patriots offense all the time. But he's an outstanding football player.
This is a random. I guess this is a random pivot, but we're staying with the defensive side of the ball. And Mike, I always keep people on their toes here, so heads up. Mike Epps, they signed him, has familiarity with some members of the coaching staff, coming off an injury, maybe nothing. But if we look at the safety position, I think the safety position and the receiver position are very, very similar. I mean, there are differences, but very similar in terms of the Patriots depth chart and how many bodies are there and what makes sense and what's the fit and everything else. And I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, is there going to be a surprise cut, or maybe Epps doesn't make the team? They only gave him a 1-year deal. I think the guaranteed money is right around. I guess Miguel's going to get his 4th shout out of the show. Shout out to PatsFans.com. Love you, Miguel. So it's $1 million, which is a lot of money to all of us, but not a lot of money in NFL terms. So do you feel like a lock for him to make the roster? Because I feel like he needs to be able to prove himself too, because I don't think he's a lock either. Because when you look at that, you have guys like, Jabril Peppers and he is the cheese that stands alone from the captains, and we've talked about that on previous shows. And I think that honestly, if they were going to remove all the captains, he would have already been gone. But I think that he's a Vrabel kind of player. Duggar got a decent amount of money, 2 years ago, or I forget, it was a year or 2 years ago, whatever it was, doesn't matter. He's a decent contract going on. I think Jalen Hawkins and Dentrell Pettis, like both kind of flashed at times. And they drafted Craig Woodson. So, I mean, they're not going to keep 7 or 8 safeties, so we get having the same conversation that we're having with the receivers. So what's your take on him? Because I don't know if Epps, I feel like he's a little forgotten in kind of the mix and the conversation of everything else. But to me, I'm starting to wonder if he's a lock, because I thought they were really interested. And now I'm thinking that he might have to be fighting for a spot.
Yeah, in terms of being a lock, I don't think he's a roster lock at all. He's facing some stiff competition and guys that are really showing up and playing very well. Craig Woodson is someone who is really impressing me each and every day he gets out there. This is
Which
a
is
kid that
exciting.
has not only a nose for the football, but also he's in and around every play, and he gets his hands in there. He's aggressive. He's got great speed, great instincts to find the football. And I think that's exactly what the New England Patriots are looking for, that aggressive type defender that's going to be a hand in glove fit for a Terrell Williams, Mike Vrabel type of defense. So I think he's got a leg up on the competition right now. I would still be very, very leery, and I did this earlier on, and I regretted doing it, and I still regret doing it, is leaving Del Pettis on the cutting room floor when I put together my initial 53-man roster prediction. Dell continues to play at a high level. He continues to show his toughness, his tenacity. I think he's going to impress and really make the case to become a member of this team as well. So when you look at Epps, when you look at what he brings to the table, I know a lot of people may be concerned about some lingering injury problems that he's had. When he's healthy, he is a guy that can give you some coverage. You're not exactly looking at a whole lot of cap savings when it comes to Marcus. I believe it's less than $1 million if he's cut or if he's traded post June 1st. So it's not a situation where you're looking at a whole lot of money won, money lost. If the Patriots have to cut ties with him, it's not really going to be detrimental for them in the pocketbook. And I'd love for Miguel to step in, but I believe if they cut him post, I believe it's going to be a less than $1 million cap hit and only $500,000 in dead money. So if that's indeed the case, and Marcus doesn't either have the health to remain on the field, or he gets beat out by guys that are playing more consistent on a high level, then he's going to find himself on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, and I just think it's fascinating. I'm super stoked that you're excited about what you've seen from Craig Woodson, because I do think he does bring a slightly different skill set than some of the other guys bring to the table. And I'm not just downplaying what the other guys bring. I mean, I just think that it's different. It's different roles in different situations, and you were the last line of defense. Literally and figuratively for the team. So you got to be able to, have guys that are going to have those roles. So that's fascinating. Steve, what's your take on this whole situation?
Yeah, again, I mean, look, they signed Epps because he's a free safety, and if you look at Peppers and Duggar, and those guys are more in the box, strong safety, dime linebacker, whatever you want to call them, type of guys. Epps is a true free safety. But then, with the draft, this kid fell into their lap, and a lot of people weren't very happy at the time. But the Patriots seem to really like this kid, and he's very versatile. They've raved about his football IQ, his maturity, and he can play that kind of dime slot kind of guy. He
Mm-hmm.
can play a little bit in the box, and he can play free safety. I think where they invested a draft pick in this young guy. I think right now, if I was to bet, I'd say he has the inside lock on that position. And again, we don't know what Epps' physical recovery has been. He did have that issue. So, um, Mike, I'll ask you because Derek and I talk all the time offline. Uh,
We always call that the pre-show.
yeah, we have. Well, this
We have
morning
the
we
show
had
before the show.
yeah, we had a 60-minute pre-show, but and then we do that like 4 times a week.
My
So
wife will tell you.
yes, mine too. Um, but I'll ask you, Mike, do you think it's a possibility that they give Epps a chance to catch on somewhere else and release him early?
It's a possibility. And I think right now, because you're past the June 1st deadline for the money to matter, I don't think it matters in Epps' condition. I think in Epps' situation, not condition. Condition kind of conjures up, the medical, and we don't want to do that right now. But in his situation, I don't believe that either pre or post June 1st, it was going to make all that much of a difference in them cutting him. Yeah, I mean, if they're going to give him an opportunity to catch on, they may do it early, especially if guys like Woodson and guys like we talked about Pettis earlier continue to make those decisions very easy for the New England Patriots, and these guys fit right in with the concept that they're running. Kyle Duggar spoke to the media on Friday. He seems like he's got an extra spring in his step and maybe a little chip on his shoulder. I think maybe to kind of prove the doubters wrong and show that he is the guy that deserves the contract that he got, and he's going to go out there and prove it because we're hearing an awful lot about Peppers and about Woodson being that that type of 1-2 combination that really could be very interesting to watch out there in the defensive backfield. Duggar wants to prove he belongs in that mix as well. So if that is indeed the case, yeah, I can see that, especially with the history that Marcus has with Josh and coming forward from the Raiders. I think they'd want to do right by him if they have every opportunity to do so.
I'm gonna ask one more question, and if you guys have any other things to bring up, we can do that. But we hit the hour mark, so it's usually where we kind of maybe do a final segment or final thoughts. I did want to bring up one thing, Mike.
Mhm.
I Marcus Jones said that he called Robert Spillane. I think what was it, the nickname? The Commander. And he said that he's very much in charge of like knowing other people's roles and stuff. I don't know if you've seen anything on the field. I know it's really hard because the guys are stretching, kind of getting. It's like Steve and I talked about this earlier. Like the first couple of days of training camp are like college orientation. You're just finding out where your rooms are and where you need to go. So, like right now, the guys are figuring out, hey, when we're stretching, here's where we go for positional drills. Okay, if we're going to do 7-on-7s or 11-on-11s, this is what we're going to do, 1-on-1s, whatever. But it does seem like Robert Spillane has kind of made a mark on some of the people. Have you noticed anything? Because I feel like Patriots fans are gonna love him once the pads are on, because I feel like he's gonna bring it every day.
Yeah, very good point about the pads. His stock is going to dramatically rise, and his reputation is really going to dramatically increase
You're gonna hear
throughout
that name
social
more once the
media.
pads are
That
on.
will really elevate, I think, his. You want to talk about aura? That'll elevate his aura to another level, or at least the
There you
mythology
go.
that follows him. But those who have been in attendance for the last couple of days as fans and have watched him can tell you that they already do love him. He's a communicator. He's a guy out on the field that is constantly talking to his teammates, letting them know his thoughts, spreading his wisdom and counsel, so to speak, out there, and letting everybody know what he can do. He's a tremendously cerebral ball player, but he's also someone that knows the value of true hard-nosed football. You heard the comparisons to Mike Vrabel, and I think they are very apt. This is a guy that really is going to command the attention of his teammates. He's going to command the respect of his teammates. And I think that's going to shine through very quickly. You're already seeing seedlings of it all over the place. And anyone that has spoken about Robert has always done so with very glowing comments. So it really does seem to be a very good fit here in New England. And had the opportunity to talk to Raider Nation Radio and ESPN Las Vegas yesterday, talking about the large number of former Raiders that now find themselves in New England. And Robert Spillane was somebody I just could not provide enough praise for. And to give them credit, the hosts on the show as well, my friend Kent Myers and your boy Q and the Raider Nation Radio out there with unnecessary roughness, were very quick to say that Spillane is someone that they're going to miss tremendously. And not just because of what he did on the field, which is very apt. This guy is a very good ball player, folks, but what he brings to you in terms of leadership really cannot be measured. Can't say enough good things about Robert.
I loved his comments after practice the first day.
I'm telling you, he's going to be a fan. He's going to be a fan favorite if he stays healthy and he's on the field. He's going to be a fan favorite in short order, guaranteed.
Oh, when I heard him say, his comments right after practice, I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to be so good here.
Yeah, he's going to be really good. Anything to add to that, Steve? Are we ready for final thoughts?
I think we're ready.
All right. Well, I'll go to you. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, I just think, in regards to the start, I mean, it's super early. We're only 3 days in. But I think we're
in the foreplay stage, folks. All right, we got time. All right, we got 2 weeks before
they're off to such a nice start. Look, there was a lot of optimism coming into this year, and I haven't seen anything or heard anything that is going to denigrate that. I think, Vrabel knew what kind of, as Mike says, aura. What aura, and you could feel it. I mean, I sat there watching all these videos after the fact, and that aura is just permeating everywhere. And it's still very early. We know that. But I think this team is off to a really good start this summer. Whereas last year, no offense to anybody else, they seemed to be kind of searching for an identity last year. And they never really found one. And I think they already have one.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm going to give my final thoughts, Mike, and then if you want to share anything for your final thoughts, and then if you want to take us out, that'd be great. I do want to thank everyone who's listening live. We have a ton of live listeners today, which is awesome. I know people are getting excited. I'm stoked about it. I did want to say one thing that's kind of been grinding my gears, as Peter Griffin would say. I feel like there's a lot of these like aggregator sites on X, and it's so funny to me how some of these sites post like someone in a one-on-one or a quarterback throws an interception and it's like the end of the world. And I just want to let everyone know, I think that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. If you have ever been to a training camp or if you've ever been around professional sports players at any time, a receiver should win a route one-on-one versus a quarterback every single time. If a guy throws if a quarterback throws a interception in practice, it's not the end of the world. I see a lot of these things that come around and whatever, and it's like they're taking chances because they're seeing what they can get away with versus what they can't. And they're trying things and they're installing new plays. Maybe if they have new coordinators, they're installing new terminology. And I just want everyone who's listening to the show, because I believe everyone that listens to the show, who I'm very thankful for, is more educated than to getting sucked into some of that minutia, because I feel like it's absolute BS. And it is practice at the end of the day. These guys are practicing. It's not real. Even the preseason games, you have guys competing for spots that are trying to make it on an NFL roster to fulfill their dream, but they also are going under very vanilla scripts on offense and defense. And by the way, both coaches most normally for all 32 teams are talking about what they want to practice versus the other teams for whatever reason, because they're trying to put themselves in better positions to go ahead and make sure their team's ready for certain situations or see what guys rise to the occasion. So as much as I love football and as much as I love this, I do think that some of that social media stuff really kind of gets under my skin, because it's like these guys are practicing. It is not life or death. It is not the AFC Championship game. It is not the Super Bowl. It's okay if Drake May throws an interception, if he's trying to throw a go ball on a new play that Josh McDaniels decided to install a couple of days before. It is what it's for. So, end of rant.
I'm going to echo your statements, gentlemen, to take us out today. I think that J.J. Watt had something very similar to say on social media. And if anybody wants to go ahead and to read J.J.'s thread, I highly recommend it because it really comes from a player's perspective, where he essentially echoes a lot of what Derek just said and a lot of what Steve just said. These players are installing concepts. They're learning new things. A failure on the field during training camp does not provide any indication that this in some way, shape, or form will not work or will not be effective in a game situation. It's simply an opportunity to try things out. Sometimes life does imitate art. Patriots look like they had some difficulty in trying to install a new look offense, a new Shanahanian type offense a couple of years ago under Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and that looked rough in training camp. It looked even rougher when we got to the regular season. So it does happen,
Yep.
but it's not necessarily an indicator. So take everything with a grain of salt. What you need to take away from training camp is that the players are looking better after mistakes and that they're showing up in condition and ready to go and ready to take direction from their coaching staff. If all of those elements are coming together, you have yourself a successful training camp. And again, take everything with a grain of salt until the pads come on, because that's when the real football starts, and we're going to start to see that next week. And speaking of next week, folks, we'll be back here on Patriots No Huddle next week with all of the latest from Foxborough, including the donning of the pads for the first time when real football begins. Then we're really going to see what this offensive line looks like, this defensive line looks like, what Drake May can do and what he can't do behind that line. We're going to figure all of that out as we march toward game one of the preseason, and the New England Patriots and the Washington Commanders looking it up at Gillette Stadium when the larger-than-life statue of Tom Brady is unveiled in the courtyard before the game. So much to worry about, so much to think about, but so much to be excited about. We're going to have you covered here on Patriots No Huddle. So on behalf of my good friend and Patriots Paisan, Steve Balistrieri, my other good friend and esteemed colleague, Derek Havens, I'm Mike Debate, reminding all of you to stay safe, to stay well, to be the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to the Pats Fans channel on YouTube so you don't miss a second of the action here on Patriots No Huddle.